Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Energy Inside Motion. I'm here today with my guest, Vadina.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, man. So, would you like to just tell the viewer a little bit about yourself?
Actress, dancer, and I also have a fashion business that I started almost, I think, 6-7 months ago now. Yeah, and that's a clothing rental.
How did you know when you were younger that you wanted to get into a sort of creative field?
I knew that I wanted to get into the creative world when I was younger, just by instinct, really, I have to be honest. It was never something that somebody came to tell me, you need to do this. I just felt it. From a young age, I started dancing. I started with ballet. And then I went on to cha-cha, that type of more like Latino, Spanish. And then I did gymnastics. And then after that, I went into theatre. So it was basically just one after the other, and I kept trying different things from a young age.
So what was the first sort of field that you went into?
The first, professionally. The first field I went into professionally was acting. So acting, I only started doing it professionally in 2023. And then when I was younger, I started off by going to a youth theatre. So that was my first introduction to acting as a whole. I wanted to go to auditions much earlier. So when I was about like 10, I, felt like, I really want to, because I was watching Disney Channel, I used to watch a lot, and I was like, oh, I really want to be on TV on this show in particular. And I used to go on the internet and look for auditions and how to get there, but a lot of them were in America. My parents, didn't really want to take me because it seemed like it could be a scam back then, and two, it just seemed so unrealistic and something so out of reach. So from then, I said, you know what, like if I can't go to these auditions, I'm just going to go to a youth theatre. At least I can be acting and doing something. So that was my first introduction to acting then. And I was when I actually started that, I was about 12. And I did that till about 16 before I went into my academic life. And then I got back into acting, in 2023.
So in terms of acting, what does acting give to you internally as a person?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think I've always wanted to try and imitate different people. So it gives me that satisfaction of, oh my goodness, I can be so many different people. And I've always felt like I can transform into those different personalities, and acting it just makes me feel fulfilled in a sense where I can do that. And do you know what? Like when I haven't been acting for a while or doing something creative, I genuinely, it feels like it's like about to explode. Like I need to do something creative. It kind of just feeds your soul. And I think every creative person can relate to that, because I suppose that's what drives you to keep doing what you're doing. And it's that inner instinct, as I said at the beginning. It's instinct what really made me get into creative stuff.
What are some ways that you sort of like improved your confidence over the years, and how have your creative outlets played a role in that?
Okay, so confidence has been a massive thing for me, and nobody really believes that, because when they first meet me, they think, oh my God, she's so confident, she can speak well, this and that, but genuinely it's been a struggle. And I think it became a struggle in my teens, really. Like when I did want to get into acting, that was when it became a struggle. And with confidence, I really had to work to get to where I am now with it. So when I was younger and I started to dance and I started to do all these things, I feel like my confidence, I did have it back then, but then there was a lot of from the culture that I'm from, it doesn't, women are kind of taught to be kind of like more mute, more silent, if you're way too confident, you intimidate people. And I think that's always been my issue, and the reason why I kind of had to just dim my own light, because I didn't want to intimidate people, whether it's men, women, just anybody. And I was told, culturally, you can't be so confident. Then I had to work to build that up. And I think when I did join the youth theatre, it was it was really difficult seeing, you know, all these, it was inspiring, but difficult at the same time to get to the confidence level of all these kids, the age of, you know, 11, 12, carrying these massive productions and doing so much, learning all these lines. If anything, even though it inspired me, it actually made me kind of less confident as well. And I remember having so many embarrassing moments where I would, you know, I'd want to audition, and the director of the theatre would push me and say, audition for this, audition for this. I suppose she did see some kind of potential. And I would be so scared to do it. And at one time I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I think I've been in the youth theatre for about 2 years actually. Because I left, I think, after the third. But I was in for 2 years and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it now. And then I go in there and I messed up my audition. I forgot all my lines. And I think from those moments where you have these like, I don't know, these bad experiences, it just shows that it's like, with confidence, it's such a massive thing when you're creative, because you need it. But at the same time, it's not a linear thing. You know, and there's moments where you feel like you don't have much of it, but then there's moments where you come back up. And I think from then, I just knew I had to work on it. And even though it took me a long time to get back to my confident self, it's been a journey. And like, some days I wake up feeling more confident, some days I wake up feeling less. I think you asked about how it contributes to my like, creative outlets, but it's a massive thing. As I said, creatives, I feel like we get so much imposter syndrome. And I think if you don't have that inner confidence, it kind of just takes over. So you've got to keep working. And times when you feel down, you feel like you've not done a good job at something, and you feel like you're not good enough, there's that inner voice that kind of has to keep, and it's that inner confidence, I think, the mindset as well. You know, you've got this, you're good, keep going, you know, don't let this stop you. And I think it's just training your mentality, really.
How do you define yourself as a person and as a woman?
I'd say strong and resilient. I think I've had so many setbacks over the years, and whether it's moving to a different country, because I'm from Bulgaria, so when I was about 5 years old, I came here, and even though I was still young, and you don't feel it as much, I think, when you're younger. It is a setback because you've got to integrate into a whole new community. You start fresh, you start in a new school, you meet new people. It's a completely different culture. So you kind of have to, then you start kind of having a different personality when you're in England and a different personality when you're back home. And I think it's just that, overcoming that, I think really made me very strong. And I think supporting my parents as well in lots of things into that. For example, there was a language barrier for them in so many ways as well as for me, but I picked up the language quicker. So I had to help them so much in lots of administrative stuff. And I was only young, and I think that's quite a common experience between kind of, you know, immigrant kids. So I think those things made me stronger, obviously, with that experience. And then I think the resilience in me kind of came from the point where I said, you know what, this doesn't define me. You know, my lack of confidence doesn't define me at this point, or, you know, the fact that none of my family are in the creative industry, that isn't, you know, why should I not be in the industry just because they're not in the industry? So it's kind of pushing forward despite limitations that you have, and putting yourself out there, which I think not many people have the courage to do. So maybe courageous is also another word I use.
Okay. So how have you sort of developed like a deep trust within yourself? And how do you know to trust the decisions that you make?
I think I develop a trust in myself when I know that I'm able enough to do the thing that I'm doing. For example, I went to law school. After I quit acting, I went to law school, and I got the education that I needed and the experience as well, because I did some work experience here and there, and then I started working in a law firm after that. I started off as a paralegal, and over time, when I was building the training and the skills, that then in my head sort of gave me it was like signaled, right? You can trust yourself to do said task because you've had the training in it, and you've got, you know, enough experience for now to do that thing. And then the more experience you build, the more trust you have in yourself to do that said thing. Especially when it's for somebody else. When you're providing a service, you wanna be competent enough to be able to provide a good service. And that's one way I'd say that I trust myself. And then the same things happen with the creative industry when I've got back into it. And I mean, I'm in the process of getting more training now, and I'm always training. And like even dancing, every single day you've got to learn. And I think you hear a lot of entrepreneurs say that, a lot of creative people, that you've got to keep learning. And that's one of the secrets to not just having that trust in yourself, but also to progressing. And it's about how you use that knowledge. Because if you just have that knowledge and do nothing with it, then there's no use. But use it to better yourself, and then you can have more trust in yourself. I think that's one of my mantras, really, one of the things I do on a daily basis.
So I wanted to ask a bit about your intuition. So how have you sort of developed your own intuition?
Well, I think if you ask any woman, we all have a inherent sense of intuition that you learn over time to trust more and more, because there's situations where you get into them and then you think, right, I have a really bad feeling about this, or I think this isn't going to work, or and it's not you just being pessimistic, or it's not you kind of I don't know, manifesting your own fate. It's genuinely just that intuition that's telling you, you can feel that this is the wrong thing, but you're doing it anyway, and you're gonna find out that, you know, the intuition was right. And I think over time, the more scenarios that I've encountered and my intuition has told me, right, this is the wrong thing or this is the right thing, I've learned to listen to it where I've not listened to it. And I said, right, I actually knew this.
I wanted to go into next was, I wanted to ask about, so in terms of your acting, how have you learned to develop your skills in acting over the years from when you first started?
Oh, so it was never a linear process when it comes to developing my acting skills, and I think every actor can speak for that as well. I think with me, compared to maybe those that did go to drama school and train, they had a more continuous experience developing the acting skills in an environment where they were trained by a lot of practitioners and really good teachers. And whereas with me, it's more so been life. I've used life experience to train me. And I think a lot of actors underestimate that, or don't really realize how important it is. So I think then going to drama school, I'm not just saying because I didn't go, but I'm saying because you hear it from a lot of people. Because a lot of people do ask me, oh, so you're an actor, but did you train anywhere? And I said, no, I didn't go to drama school, but in terms of life experience, I can tell you that that's given me so much more training than people think. Where I started was with the youth theatre, really, when it comes to acting directly. So that was more of a directly focused acting group, and that was theatre, and we did a bit of musical theatre too, but I feel like theatre wasn't really my thing then, or I thought it wasn't, at least, because when I joined, as I said, my confidence wasn't really where it should have been, and I shied away, and I thought, no, theatre's not for me. So I think even though I received a lot of the training there, I didn't profit as much from it as I could have because of that lack of confidence. But definitely it did improve the way that I kind of approach scripts. Even from back then, like we did Shakespearean plays, so even reading Shakespeare at such a young age was a massive skill you learned, and Shakespeare comes up so much in acting when you are training. Yeah, so the youth theatre definitely contributed a lot to the training. And then after I left that, I did absolutely nothing acting related up until 2023. Actually, probably end of 2022, because the way I got back into acting is actually a story in itself, really. But after I got back into the acting, I did join a acting for screen class, which was like from September to December, that type of, it was that length. And like every week we would do monologues, we would do script work and audition practice. So you definitely learn a lot from that stuff. And you know what, it teaches you exactly what you need to know to be able to audition and kind of get into the the acting game. You don't necessarily need to, as I said, have gone to drama school to be able to have done that. I think another thing I'd say that is really that has really played a massive a massive role in my acting is working with people, because actors, you tell stories, right? And how can you tell a story when you haven't experienced people whose stories you're telling, right? And with me, I've always tried to see as much as I can, because you never know what kind of script you're going to get, and how you relate to the script, I think, is what allows you to do a good job. And I think I've said no to like scripts that I don't necessarily relate to, or I don't think I can, like the character I can pull off, or that kind of thing. And for example, my first ever job was as a hotel receptionist, and that was the first time outside of school and uni that I've met like adults. And I think that's probably everybody's first job. You meet all these, we have business guests, we have, the ordinary like, leisure guests, and you talk to these people. You find out, why they're staying and what they're doing, and they tell you all these stories. And sometimes you just get random people that come in asking for things, and you get into a conversation. And I've always been really curious. I think curiosity is something that can train an actor so well, when you just ask questions, and you shouldn't be afraid to. And the more stories you find out about, the more then you can relate to them when they come up in a script. And when you see how like the pain in people's eyes, and when you see and hear the kind of things people have gone through, you can really apply that into your acting. And that's definitely one of my favorite techniques to use as an actor. So I try and do more and more of that, and immerse myself in as many kind of groups of people as I can. But I've always actually wanted to undertake some more formal training, just so I can feel, go back to that question, just so I can have more trust in myself behind a camera, and just to enhance kind of my technique, because as an actor, you've always got to work on your craft. Training is so important. And I remember one of the first people I met in the film industry, he was telling me that actors in America, they do not go out of class, most of them. They're always in class, always in acting class, training. Even when they're doing movies, that's probably the only time that they kind of stop, and then they straight away go back to it. In the UK, there isn't that practice of actors always being in class. It's more like a personal choice, whereas in the US, it's more kind of the norm really there. So I actually now understand why. And it's like a muscle as well, acting. The more you train it, the more you just don't, the better it gets, the stronger it gets, and you kind of don't really forget the skill. So training is really important. And even though I didn't have the chance to go to drama school then, I am undertaking something very similar in the next few months, and it's just another way for me to enhance my technique and my training. But obviously also practical time on set, that's the best teacher. Practice, the more you are on set, the better. So there's so many things you can do as an actor to train. And I think all actors just keep training, because that to me is probably the key to just mastering your craft. Don't ever stop.
What key things fuel your passion and your drive as a person?
I think my support system is probably the main thing that keeps fueling my drive, and my passion every single day. These people around me that keep supporting me, that drives me every day. Another thing as well is just looking after myself. Like when you feel good, you subsequently have more more passion to put into other things, and it doesn't really, not feeling good inherently doesn't kind of drown you. And it gives me a lot of energy as well to focus on my creativity, and the better you feel, I think the more creative you get. What else? So yeah, my training, my surround, good food, taking care of myself, recovery, like having some time where you can just not only recover from all the training you do, but also just alone time as well. Even when you traveling a lot as well. A lot of creative people, especially in literature, a lot of writers and like poets, they like Paris is a place where they've gone to get so much motivation, inspiration. So I think when you travel to different places in between times and that can influence so much. I get so many ideas when I'm away, and I'm like, oh wow, this would, because your mind kind of calms down for a little bit, and that kind of gives you a lot of ideas, and yeah, like so many. It's such a combination of things fuel my passion and my drive. But ultimately, I think it's inherent. It's all within you, and it's just about how you get it out, and that's all these things that I mentioned.
So, what would be some advice that you have for women in terms of trying to navigate the creative industry?
Oh, navigating the creative industry, I think, is difficult for anybody. And no matter if you're a man, a woman, but I think for women in particular, because I think as a lot of industries, it is very male dominated. A lot of directors are male, a lot of people producing things are male. There is women, you know, coming into the industry more, but I think just keep pushing. I would say just don't ever stop, and that's really universal advice. Just keep going. Find the thing that makes you unique. Find your kind of USP, your unique selling point, and just push it. Like, know who you are. And I think, you know, one thing that theatre director used to tell me in the youth theatre that I went to, called Stage 2 Youth Theatre. It's still around actually, so I think it's a great place for young actors to start here in Birmingham. She always used to say, turn up, try hard and be nice. And I've carried that with me ever since those days. And just something I've done in every single meeting I've gone to. It just becomes who you are. And when you approach things with a good heart and good intentions, I just think success is always kind of on the table. Women obviously trust your instincts. Women are very blessed, as I said, with that inner intuition and instinct that we've got, and just trust that if something feels wrong, just kind of leave and don't do it. Definitely don't do something just because, let's say, you feel like you have to. Just do it because like your intuition and your heart says it, and I think you won't go wrong. But just, yeah, be strong, be brave, just use all these qualities we've got as women. And
So I wanted to ask about modelling.
okay.
So how did you sort of get into modelling, and what inspired you to be a model?
I do modelling freelance. Modelling, that's a whole industry, separate the industry in itself. It's really difficult, I think. Even though they say there's a place for everybody in the acting industry and the modelling industry, I think with models, traditionally, you had to be, you know, 6 foot, 5'10" to 6 foot to actually, or at least minimum 5'7" to kind of get in there, especially runway. I've always loved fashion. So I think when you see fashion, you kind of just think of all the legendary models, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell. You know, as a young girl, you kind of think, you know, I really want to be like that. I've always liked them, but I think when it comes to modeling, I've always just liked the camera, and I connect with like acting more because I've always liked to become, you know, these different personalities, these different people. But I think modeling, I use it in the same way, because when you go to a shoot, the things you wear, it kind of transforms you as well into a different person, and like the facial expressions, you've got to kind of play with the camera a little bit. And it is different acting in the sense that you are performing directly to the camera. But yeah, I've always enjoyed it. I think it just naturally it come, like acting, modeling, dancing, they're also mutually exclusive. And I think if you can act, you can probably model as well. But I've done it freelance. I've not kind of gone through applying for agencies, just because I think I see myself as more of an actor than you know, being a full-time model. But I would consider commercial modeling, and I have done it in the past, as I said, freelance. But it isn't like my full-time thing. But I do enjoy it.
So yeah, with modelling, so how does doing modelling sort of help your confidence as a woman?
Modelling helps my confidence in many ways. I think being able to connect with the camera, that makes you feel very confident because you know how to maneuver it, kind of thing. You know where to stand, and I think that's just something which can always help somebody, knowing how to do that. The more you do of it, the more confident you get, the more experience you get, and it just makes you feel empowered, I think. Trying, not just presenting kind of clothing that you're modeling with. I mean, it depends what you're modeling, really, but it just feels empowering, meeting so many people. I've met so many really nice people and made good friends from modeling jobs. It's just fun, and when you see everybody having such a good time in the studio or on set, you just you naturally feel confident. It's like, right, I can do that, and it looks good, and especially when you see the result. So yeah, I'd say that is the confidence part of it. Yeah, it makes you feel confident.
Okay. There's something I wanted to ask is, what are some of what are the main sort of things you want to give to the world?
I think kindness and just being a good person. I think these days people don't really have good intentions anymore. They mess you around. There's just so many, people have just forgot this notion of kindness and like helping each other. The more of that I can spread, I think that would be great. I want to be there to remind people that they never should forget those qualities, no matter how corrupt, how the world can corrupt them. And also, I think acting is probably one of those things through which I want to leave a mark in the world, because what you make, these films, any type of project you do, that is out there in the space. It gets remembered, and one day it can be something that you can be remembered by, and your kids can watch. And so that's always been something which I wanted to leave a mark with, and I've always imagined I could do that.
Definitely. So in terms of your authenticity, how do you feel like, how do you sort of translate that to the world?
How I translate my authenticity to the world is definitely through just being myself as much as I can. And it's so ironic because as an actor, you pretend to be different like other people, but in your in your engagements outside of that, you have to really remember who you are and do things that make you you. And I think even in the different roles you play, and even through dancing as well, in the different routines you do, there's always something of yourself that you put in. So I always try, everything that I do, I always try and kind of add a touch of me to the character. And I think knowing yourself as well and being that most authentic version of yourself, it takes time. It's something you develop from, it's something you start working on, I mean, from a young age up until, I think people keep working on it from kind of that up to a very, very old age. And you kind of have to have people around you that remind you of who you are. And even though you may change, I always like to change for the better, and I like to improve myself and like to look at ways in which I can do more and get just better and better, really.
Development.
I think the more you do that, you get closer to your most authentic self, and you've just got to just try and keep kind of using being your authentic self everywhere you go, no matter what job you're doing, and no matter kind of who's around you. And you shouldn't really be scared of how people take that, because if anything, if they can't accept you for who you are, then they shouldn't be around you, really.
100%.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask is, so with your acting, what is one of your favourite acting roles that you've done?
What my favourite acting role that I've done so far is, I've done quite a few that I really have enjoyed. I think I'll say the most recent one, it's not out yet, but I mean, by the time this has been aired, it might have been out. It was a short film called Frequent Flyers, and I was playing an air hostess who was a corrupt air hostess. And she was, so her and her hostess friend were stealing from passengers, and they just wanted to kind of use this to do other stuff. I mean, it was that kind of role, and I've always enjoyed playing those roles where I'm like the bad guy. I've always liked playing the villain, those type of dark feminine roles type of, and I really enjoyed playing that because I connected to it a lot because I've literally been traveling from such a young age, flying back and forth, obviously predominantly from the UK to Bulgaria, but also just because even an air hostess has been something which I've considered doing as a job before, and the fact that I could do that, play that role on, in a film, was just a really good experience to have. And also being a corrupt one, I could play the villain. That was really fun, and just shooting it as well was really, really fun as well.
So obviously you come from Bulgaria and you've sort of assimilated into like a different culture in the UK. What advice do you have for creatives who have sort of come from a different culture and are now trying to fit into a new culture where they're going to be working?
I think being a creative from a different country and trying to fit in to the culture of the new one that you want to develop in as a creative is a very difficult task, and you have to be so strong to be able to do that and overcome the setbacks. And I think if you know the language, even better. But it's such a, I think one thing, language barrier when it comes to scripts, it's so, you may not understand certain things, but ultimately I don't think it's something which should set them back. It's absolutely possible. I mean, with me, I came at a very young age, so I don't think I felt the very sudden kind of move into the new culture. I kind of gradually grew into it, and but you know what? With me, even though I've kind of lived full-time in the UK ever since I was about 5-6 years old, I also am in touch with my culture back home. So when I go back home, I know exactly what's going on. I enjoy the music. I enjoy the traditions. And I can also relate to whatever goes on creatively in that country. So it doesn't mean that you can't do both. You absolutely can. But I think you just need to showcase even things from that culture. You can tell people, you can educate people on the country you're from, so you don't necessarily need to fully blend into the new culture that you're, and the new community that you've come into. So I think as advice, I would definitely say just be your authentic self as well. Don't forget that. Put that into your films, put that into your music, put that into whatever kind of creative venture you're doing. Don't feel ostracized, and like don't think people are seeing you differently because you're from a different country. I think people in the UK admire when they see different and they want to know more, whereas back home, different isn't really celebrated. So I think in a country, if you've moved to a country where different is celebrated, absolutely embrace that. Use this, let that be your unique selling point. This is you, and I think it will attract a lot of audience, and it will get you into the rooms you want to be in. Just because you come from a different country doesn't necessarily have to be a setback. You've got to use it to your advantage. And I think ultimately, no matter whether you've lived in the UK all your life or in whatever country, you've still got to work hard. So be your authentic self, but still work very hard, and probably have to work twice as hard actually sometimes to get people to take you seriously, but it's not a setback. It shouldn't be.
So in terms of your work ethic, you do a lot of different things, very multifaceted. How have you sort of built a strong work ethic for yourself, and what does that look like to you?
I think the work ethic that I have has come from my family. Growing up, seeing how hard my dad's worked, how hard my mom's worked, to be able to create a comfortable life for us now. That they never started easy. As I said, I don't think any immigrant starts easy. They've started from the most kind of awful jobs, and seeing that as a young child, and even helping them, as I said previously, with some admin stuff, and you hear about the kind of problems they've had to deal with. So I think that drives me to be more hardworking to not have to go through the same thing in my adulthood. And I think even though it was a shame having to do these things being so young, because you have to grow up faster, but it does teach you a lot of things. And I think I've escaped so many hardships, so many kind of bad situations, being alert and aware of these things from early on. So it has taught me a lot, and just seeing them work hard has definitely contributed to my work ethic. But I think I'm very much like my both my mom and my dad are very hardworking, and just my family generally. I wouldn't say there's anybody lazy in the family. So just seeing it all around me, that there's no way it will kind of pass me by. And yeah.
So what would you say your journey of growth has been like so far, and what does personal growth look like to you over the upcoming years?
Growth, my journey of growth has been non-stop, to be honest. It's something which, I've always liked learning. I've always liked getting better and better, and every year I kind of look back and I think, wow, I actually thought that I'd kind of done, got to this version of myself where I'm like, it's like the ultimate version, but then you get to the next year and it's like 2.0, and it keeps going, and that really, that self-reflection really makes you think that there's genuinely no limits. You don't know how much you can progress. It's nice to actually journal and keep a bit of a note of these things and kind of what you achieve and what you do, and so that when you look back, and even taking pictures is a really good thing, because even from the way you kind of look, especially when it comes to like fitness as well, I'm really into fitness, which I suppose is part of like dancing and also just everything I do, seeing growth in that. There's so many aspects, like with the acting and the training and dancing and training with that. It's a non-stop thing. And even though I was in the law field like once upon a time, growth looked a bit differently there, because growth there was more like career progression within the field, going from like a student to then like a post-grad and then paralegal and stuff like that, then going up to trainee solicitor and so on. That's one version of growth. But then in the creative industry and in the entrepreneurial like life, growth is even bigger. So there's literally no limits. You're on your own timeline. That's why I like to reflect. And for the next few years, what I feel like it's going to look like, well, I am undertaking more drama training, and I'm just working more and more on myself, setting new fitness goals, setting even with acting, I've sort of made a list of the kind of roles that I want to play in the future. So I really hope that I get the chance to do those things and play those roles, and then I'll look back when that's all done and say, I grew so much. So I hope my confidence also grows, because with confidence, I think there's always more room for it to grow. Like I see people doing, whether it's dance routines or acting performances, and I think, wow, I want my confidence to get to that level. I could probably do that performance, but the confidence, it takes it from kind of being mediocre to just being insane and out of this world. So I want it to get to that point, but that's, I suppose, kind of equal with ability, and when you've got the ability and the training, the confidence kind of comes with it.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about manifestation. So how important is manifestation, and what are ways that you manifest?
I think manifestation is a really important part of getting to where you want to be, not just because I think people think that you just put it into the universe and it happens. It's not so simple. And I think ultimately what manifestation is you knowing what you want and putting your goals, whether you write them down or just have some kind of clarity on them. That is what I think helps the universe, helps you attract what you want from the universe. So there's no like magic behind it. I just think it's basic science, and you attract what you reflect. So genuinely, I think being aware, sitting with myself and being aware of what I want and listing these things down has really helped me attract them in my life. And ever since I started being clear on my goals, it definitely has had an effect. So I would say that it's important for people to know exactly what they want and to sit down and clarify that in their head, and they'll see how fast these things actually start happening sometimes. And I mean, I remember, so this is just an example of my manifestations. So I really wanted to go to a world premiere, and I wrote this down on my list. I really wanted to go to a world premiere. I mean, of course, one day I want one of my own premieres to be a world premiere, but I just wrote it down. And sometimes you have to be quite specific about the things you want to manifest, because if you just say like world premiere, it can be honestly anything, anywhere. And it might be, sometimes you've got to be, maybe you have to say like, I want this to be my premiere, or you've got to have specific details in it sometimes. So I put it in there, and I think it wasn't a timed one. Like it's probably not very good to put a time on these, because they can happen at any time. And I think, when was it? Last year, Peaky Blinders announced that there's going to be another film, and there was no news about where the premiere would be, and I completely forgot that when the film's coming out and what's happened. And one day I just saw, which was this year, I just saw a random post online, and it said, oh, Peaky Blinders movie's coming out this day, the premiere is going to be in Birmingham. And it was just like, oh, okay, that's really nice. And I actually completely forgot that I'd actually wrote it down somewhere that I want to go to world premiere, because I wrote it down, I think, like a year or two ago. But I have this list somewhere, so I know where it is. And I then thought, oh, let me see if, some friends are going. Like, I would really love to go and watch this movie, because I didn't even think, world premiere. I just thought, I really want to go see the new movie. It's in Birmingham. That's great for our city. We've not really had such an amazing thing for a long time. And messaged my friends, and then one thing led to another, and we got access to this world premiere. And then I was like, wait a second. I swear I wrote this down. And I went back to my list, and it was that. And I didn't know that when I wrote this down, it would be Peaky Blinders and it would be a world premiere in Birmingham. In Birmingham, it could have been anywhere in the world. So these things just kind of come to you. Yeah. And that's why I just think it emphasizes the importance of knowing what you want. And it's not, as I said, it's not just a magic thing. It's just you attract exactly what you put out in the universe.
Okay. So what are some of the main things that you want from the universe in the upcoming years?
I mean, as a person, I'm very simple. The thing I've always wanted and will keep, I suppose, like praying for, is just health for myself, my family, my close friends. It's just some of the basics that I think people underestimate and they forget about. So to be happy, to be healthy, to be more confident. I've always aspired to be just a better version of myself as time goes on, and I think confidence is a massive part of that. And also it then translates into the success you have with your ventures. I would absolutely love to put into the universe to be successful in every single thing that I do, because as you did say, like, I'm very multifaceted, and it is true. I do a lot of things, and sometimes it's not, I suppose, great to have so many eggs in so many different baskets, but at the age I am, it's the time to do it. People underestimate how much time we have, and they think, oh, you've got so much time, but you don't. Time, when you think like that, you'll open your eyes one day and 5 years will have passed and you've done nothing because you think you've got so much time. We don't. Every day counts. And I think we should really, really be careful what we put into the universe, because it does give its energy, and before you know it, it may just have happened. So have positive thoughts. I really hope that all this kindness, positivity and hard work does return in a good way in the coming years.
Okay. So my last question for you, what are some of the acting roles, or like what's what do you hope to achieve from acting in the next 5 years? Like, where do you want to be with it?
Oh, well, I hope to have played some of my dream roles in acting. That is one thing. There is a few projects at the moment in the pipeline that I absolutely hope manifest in the coming years, because they are indie projects and they do take some more time to get produced. So I'm really hoping that I can do that. I've always wanted to play a Bond girl, so I think I hope one day I get the chance to do that. With acting, definitely just to play my dream roles and just achieve a bigger platform, sort of have a bigger platform for people to be able to show people what I've done. Because I think that's the most rewarding thing for any creative, to have a platform and to have an audience, because even though you get fulfilled with what you do, it's so nice when people see it. It's just it feels so rewarding, and when it's appreciated, and when there's that like two-way communication between you and the person who is actually watching you, and they're saying, wow, you're just so good in this, or you know what, you need to improve in this. Like, I love that. I love hearing all this feedback from people, and the more people you can hear it from, the better. So I hope that when it comes to acting, and not just that, the dancing, like everything I do, I just hope that I get to get that bigger platform in the coming years, play my dream roles, and yeah, just we'll see where that takes me.
Okay. So this has been another episode of Energy Inside Motion. If you'd like to just give people your social media handles.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Raddi, spelled Raddi _Ancheva, Ancheva. And yeah, I also have a TikTok, which is Radelina with another A. And that's it. But TikTok I mainly post dance on, so that is all my accounts.
So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.